Hey everybody, it's Dan at Ready Edge Go. Welcome back to Go Live and happy Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're doing safe, and I hope everyone is definitely hoping the best for peace worldwide right now, because there's a whole lot of peace that we need to make it right in Ukraine and a whole lot of other places in the world. But yeah, I mean, it's been a while, and I think to kind of come back and kick it off, I think there's been a hot topic that either you have already decided some on or you're still in the process of deciding on. That is course selection. Today we're going to be talking about how to map out course selection over the course of high school in 4 years. It's one of those topics that I think a lot of people think they know, but they have no idea. So let's get into it. Today we're going to be covering three primary parts, right? Which is one, the general rules for picking classes for high school, right? Not just for this next year, but every single year. It's good to always see it in a longer term trajectory, because then you can kind of see the general plan versus just kind of making chaotic decisions year by year, right? You want to have a long-term plan. The second thing is really, how does academic rigor play into all this, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions when it comes to weighted coursework, non-weighted courses, APs, self-studying APs outside of class, taking community college courses sometimes. So there's a lot of questions about course rigor, academic rigor. So we'll talk about what that is, what it means, and why do colleges even look for it in the first place. And the final body of today is really talking about the 5 core subjects, right? Obviously English, math, language, history, and obviously science. So we'll kind of talk about each of those 3 things to give you kind of a baseline. But to start, I think it's really important for you guys to understand that, course selection should not be seen, I guess, in a vacuum. It's not a one-dimensional topic, right? You want to kind of think about course selection with regards to your general life. And I think the biggest mistake that parents and students generally make is they very much prioritize course rigor without considering how much time the student needs to sleep, to rest, to play, to do sports, to do music, to do all their other things, and just to kind of hang out with their friends. I don't know why, but in general, there tends to be this overemphasis on, I need to get more and more course rigor. And that's just the wrong way to look at it. So, I think, since we're going to talk about the general rules of thumb for picking courses for high school, I want you guys to remember these 3 words, which is ability, interest, and time. So ability, interest, and time. And so let's start with that. When you're choosing courses, right, we want to choose classes that are within the student's ability. Right, we don't want to be, dealing with a student who's got B's and C's with one weighted course, right, and then all of a sudden expect them to take 3 or 4 APs next year, when the evidence, the data clearly shows they don't have the ability yet, right, to take on that load. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the courses that match a student's ability. And so in the same vein, right, if a student is acing all unweighted courses, maybe they don't have a single weighted course, right? They're probably not being challenged enough. So we probably want to add some weighted courses, but we don't want to overdo it either, right? So, always make, choice on course decision selection first and foremost focusing on ability, right? The second thing I'd say to focus on is interest, right? Well, is the student just interested in that content, right? Especially when you're deciding between, let's say, an AP US history and a regular US history. There's no point in taking that weighted course if the student is just not interested in that class at all, right? That's only going to drag the student down in terms of time needed for the other courses that probably matter. And worse, in the worst case scenario, it's probably going to drag the overall grades down for all classes, right? Because the student is now, trying to focus on the class that they don't really like, and all of a sudden they're not doing well in it, and then that drags down the whole GPA. That just doesn't help anybody, right? So interest, make sure that the student is actually interested in taking the courses that they're going to be committing to. And lastly, time. This is probably the most important and underrated aspect. Make sure the student has time to do other things. Like I said, guys, right, course selection, all right, the courses you take is not even 90% or 80% or 70% of a college's ultimate evaluation of a candidate. I would generally say the courses that you choose are probably worth about a quarter, right, of the evaluation. Another quarter goes to how you actually do in them, okay? And the remaining 50% of a college's evaluation is on absolutely nothing to do with your courses, right? Which is what have you done outside of class and volunteering and just to demonstrate your level of learning and curiosity, right? And I think the biggest mistake is that we don't take into account the time students need to actually grow and be healthy and play hang out with their friends and learn about themselves, find new interests, right? We generally tend to kind of just assume that if the student, has enough time to just do these courses, that's all they should do. And that's a terrible mistake. So do not jeopardize your students' chances at college by overemphasizing on, course rigor and course load. Okay, so let's talk about, course rigor. That's a good segue, right? How does academic rigor play into course selection, especially for impacted majors? I've all heard that, like I would say major pathways like engineering, computer science, or, pre-medi, kind of biology, or even business, right? A lot of those majors can be impacted where there's just too much demand, right? And there are just few faculty members to really take that on in college. How do you kind of think about academic rigor, right, in terms of these kinds of majors? I think the first off, we have to understand, well, what is the meaning of academic rigor, right? And I'm going to start by saying what is not academic rigor. And that is stuff that's offered outside of your high school that doesn't go onto your transcript. Okay, so what is not academic rigor, right, when it comes to college admissions processes and evaluations? It is not how many APs you self-studied for. It is not how many community college courses you took at the nearby CC, right? It is not the stuff that basically you're going outside of high school curriculum, right, to study and prepare for. And why is that? Because it's really important to understand that colleges evaluate you for, right, what was available to you at the high school curriculum, right? And how, of those courses, which one did you take and how did you do, right? If they basically favored students who were able to take community college courses or able to self-study AP, for AP exams, right? They would place an incredible, basically they would produce an incredible amount of inequity, right? An unfair advantage for those who have the resources and the means to afford those kinds of options, right? And that's not how college admissions works, right? Academic rigor is established by what? One, what was available to that student in terms of coursework. Of that rigor that was available to that student at that particular school, what did the student take? And then lastly, how did the student do in those courses, right? It's really important to understand that academic rigor is specific to your school, right? And to go one step further, specific to your major. So we'll have a, it's a separate topic altogether. To be honest, I could probably talk an entire 30 to 60 minutes just on that. We'll have a separate show, live show on this topic on rigor. But for now, some high level points, right, about academic rigor, is, okay, what does it mean and what does it not, right? So just focus on what it means first, which is it's what is available in your high school curriculum, all right? The second thing is, why do colleges even consider it? Well, colleges, right, they want to make sure that you're prepared for the rigor that they're about to give you, right? So whether it's a UC Davis, a UT Austin, a UIUC, a BU, a Columbia, a Yale, a Harvard, a Stanford, a Berkeley, whatever, they're trying to determine, okay, do we have any data about how the student might perform at our school? And their primary job, by the way, is to admit students who they feel confident are going to graduate in time, right, within 4 years or so, okay? So it's really important, it's absolutely paramount, right, that you demonstrate, you challenge yourself without over-challenging yourself, okay? To demonstrate to colleges that not only have you taken some rigorous courses, but you've excelled in them. And that's the key, guys. You have to make sure you get A's in the weighted courses that you decide to take, right? And I think that is the biggest missing link to a lot of students' plans. They take a ton of, AP coursework or honors coursework, and they don't get A's in them, right? So you're not proving to the colleges anything if you're not excelling in the rigorous coursework, right? So it's an and statement, not an or statement, okay? You can't just take weighted classes and not get good grades, right? AKA A's. You want to take rigorous courses and to the best of your ability, show that you can excel in them. And that'll prove to a university that you're ready for their course rigor, right? Because college level coursework is, I would argue, in general, more rigorous than high school, right? And you'll be having a separate show, on just course selection in general. And I think, there's a whole bunch of specifics and nuances. We get questions about this every day. So we'll make sure to go ahead and put that up for you guys when we're ready. The next topic is really covering the core subjects. How do you even think about them, right? And we're talking about English, math, language, right? History, and lastly, science, right? How do you think about these 5 core classes? And so let's start with English, okay? And I want to start off by saying that taking rigorous course load, right, in each of the core classes should really, whether or not you do it, right, should depend on one, primarily, right, ability and interest. Okay, so do you have the ability and are you interested in them? That's an and statement. Going back to that again, right? Ability and interest, right? And I guess I'll layer one final thing. Does it have to do something with your major or the general area that you're trying to go towards studying, right? If you're not sure what your major is, that's fine, right? No worries. It's still early. You're still in high school. In fact, you still have college to figure that out, right? But if you kind of know that you're going to drift towards STEM, for instance, right? It may not be so important to take, a push or AP Lit, right? It may not be so important, right, to take the non-STEMmy rigorous course load, even though you might have heard, oh, well, I heard it's important to take as many as you can. I heard it's important to take 16, or my cousin took, all these AP courses, so I should take them too. And these are all just very bad choices, like very bad life choices, okay? If you're trying to get better at life, stop listening to what, your cousin did, or stop listening to what your parents think. You should probably start with, okay, logically speaking, what's going to put me in the best probable, scenario of getting into my best colleges? And that starts with, okay, do I have the ability to get A's in this weighted course? And two, right, am I even interested in it in the first place? And I think with English, this is a good one to start with as a core subject, right? Because yes, you have to take English all 4 years. That's obviously, right, a prerequisite of graduating, generally speaking, from high school. But should you take the advanced coursework? Well, yes, in some cases, and no in others, per se, right? Yes, in the case that you feel like you can get A's, and maybe you're kind of majoring or leaning towards the humanities, social sciences, right? Maybe even business, and maybe even pre-med. Now, let me kind of pause on the last two, right? Why business and pre-med? Why is, let's say, taking rigorous courses in English a good, generally good show of, rigor there? Because in business, they want to see that you're good in both math, right? Quant, as we call it, and communication, right? English, right? Does that mean you have to take, AP Lit or, AP Lang? No, especially if you're not able to get A's in those courses and or you're just not interested in them, right? I'd rather you take a regular course, crush it and get A's, right? Than take the AP coursework and struggle and tread water, right? No one wants to see that. But in general, right, rigorous course load in English, good for business, good for pre-med, because that generally are very linked to liberal arts schools, which require a strong basis in English. And obviously any major related to humanities, critical reading, critical writing, obviously, and social sciences, right? Next up is math, right? So it's great to show 4 years of math, okay? Try not to dodge this unless, and I think generally speaking, right, it's the only times I say it's kind of okay for students to not take 4 years of math is, again, if they're not able to get A's, right? I dealt with students who really struggle in math. Maybe they're really into art and math is like their arch nemesis, right? In those cases, sure, right? We might not want to take 4 years, but in general, rule of thumb, you want to try to take all 4 years, of high school. You want to take it math. Generally taking it, up to, pre-calc or calculus, right? Obviously, if you're a physical science major, right, or generally a STEM major, right, you want to show that you have the ability, right, to do well in AP Calculus A, B, or BC, multi-var if it's offered and you're an engineering candidate, right? But less important for a social science major to show an AP Calc BC, right? Less important for even a bio major to show, AP Calc BC or multi-var, right? Again, you have to use your common sense, okay? Not all of the weighted courses matter equally. And that's the primary lesson I'm trying to show you guys right now, right? Next up is history, right? So history, this is probably, the simplest one to think about, right? If you're a poli-sci major, if you're a history major, if you're a liberal arts or humanities, if you're going towards that direction, then sure, right? Consider taking a push, consider taking AP Euro, consider taking AP Gov Econ, right? Get it, right? But guys, a push is probably the worst class to take junior year amidst 5 other APs or 4 other APs, right? Like just not a good idea if you're an engineering major, right? And it's not because, oh, well, I know I can get an A in that class. No, guys. Remember, AIT, right? Ability, interest, and time. The key is, will you have time to do the other things that have nothing to do with courses, right? So the same thing here, right? Use your common sense, right? Does history have anything to do with my future goals? Does history have anything to do with my internal interests? And will taking that class provide me or afford me the time I need to do things that are not, right, class, right? So that's that. Science, I think this, there's a lot of versatility when we talk about this core subject because there's different sciences. Okay, but in general, guys, the biggest rules of thumb is you obviously want to take, generally speaking, all 4 years of science if you can. I think the old rule of, oh, you need a bio, a chem, and a physics is definitely dated. It's not necessarily true. Just remember this, if you're going towards the physical sciences and say engineering, math, applied math, yes, they usually want to see a physics, right, your junior year, because they want to see how you did in that class prior to your application in senior year, right? It's going to be too late if you take physics for the very first time in your 12th grade because you won't have a grade to show it by the time, college apps goes in. So, be aware of that. At the same time, if you're going towards the health sciences, right, demonstrating, a strength in both, biology and chemistry, ideally, with course rigor, right, the AP or the honors level, that would be very nice. But try not to bypass that 4th year of science, right? Try to show them continuity in science all throughout in general. And last but not least, guys, foreign language, probably the least understood or probably the most mythy one, right? I hear all the time, do I need to take 4 years in AP to show that continuity? I heard it's important to take AP French, or I heard it's important to take AP Spanish. And guys, it's really important to know, right? 2 years is required by the UC system, in case you're curious about Berkeley, LA, right? Many of our students are. 3 years is recommended, right? And that's up until level 3. It's really important, right? So let's say you started high school at, let's say, Spanish 2. You're already at 2. Even though you've only taken it 1 year in high school, you're at level 2. So when they say recommended 3 years, that's what they mean. They want up through level 3, right? So it is not important or crucial to take the 4th year, or rather the 4th level, right? And I think this is where there gets to be some confusion, right? People think, oh, well, I need to take up to 3 total years in high school. No, it's not what that means. Okay, so you've already met the recommendation if you've passed through level 3, right? So just make sure you kind of got that down. Is it absolutely crucial to do 3 years of foreign language? No, it's not. Again, context here matters. Okay. And so, the last, it's not a core area, but obviously, right, electives are required, and, aside from PE and health, right, you have a choice as to kind of what other courses you can take. And generally speaking, elective slots become available 11th and 12th grade. Sometimes people have it in 10th, right? And you want to utilize those in the early, let's say early on 10th grade, if you have an elective slot, to really explore something that you're interested in that you haven't been able to study yet, or, right, to reinforce your interest towards a major area, right? So some students already kind of know when they're in 8th or 9th grade that they want to go towards robotics, right? And so, choosing things like Introduction to Engineering Design, choosing things like POE, choosing things like AP-CSA or AP-CSP, right? They can utilize that elective slot to really further demonstrate preparation and interest towards major. So that helps, okay? And so I just want to kind of recap and wrap this up by echoing the 3 letters, right? AIT, ability, interest, and time remaining for other stuff, right? Make sure that you have the ability to get A's. And that shouldn't be a question mark ability. We're talking about solid confidence. I'm going to get A's in these courses, right? 2, make sure that your student, or if you are the student, that you're genuinely interested in learning this stuff. Because if you're not, it's going to take you 3 times longer to do better and 3 times more effort to do okay, right? That's going to drag down your grades everywhere else. It's going to really be bad for your mental health. Take classes that interest you, guys, right? No point in taking, a class that doesn't, unless it's absolutely required and there's no way out of it, right? And lastly, the most important one, right? Just have to say it again. Make sure you have time to do other stuff in life, guys. Live your life, get out there, right? Live healthy, be happy. Don't go crazy if you feel like your courses are, aren't perfect. There's no such thing. The key is, guys, to live your life in balance. And I think, when you view course selection, think about it in terms of, your whole life, as opposed to just the courses I'm taking, right? So I hope that helped you guys. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to shoot us an email anytime, admit@readyedgego.com. We're always here to help. So until the next